Hi, folks. We're a few minutes early. It's Bob Cohen, and we'll get started just as soon as we get a lot of people on. Typically, I don't open this up until about 7, but since we're here, how's everybody doing? Feel free to drop me some chats. Let me know how you're doing, and just want to welcome you here. So far we got 5, but we've got many, many, many who have registered for this tonight.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Dave.
So we have 11.
So far, yeah, we've got over 100 registered tonight, so we should have a
Wow.
bunch. So we are live right now, Dave. Hi, Simone. I'm doing well, thanks. How about yourself? Well, you already told me you're doing well. Hi, Carmela. We're gonna wait. I mean, it's fairly early yet. It's just before 7 o'clock by a minute. We're gonna wait a few more minutes. We've got a bunch of people, I believe, joining us tonight. All right, people are starting to join us pretty good. So let's give it another minute or so and I'll get us started. Can everybody hear me okay? Good, thanks, Kelly. I got 7:01. I'm going to give it one more minute. People are still joining us. Thank you, Jonathan. Hey, Linda. All right, I think we'll get started. Um, my name is Bob Cohen. I know there will be a few people joining us as we go on. We've got quite a few registered tonight. Typically, we'll get anywhere from 50, 60% up to 70% of those that registered. So I know that there's still a lot of people probably will be joining us. So, but I want to welcome everybody. Bob Cohen again. I am a SCORE mentor. I am joined by Dave Lupian, who is also a SCORE mentor and who you will hear from next week in the second session of this, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So, Sean, welcome. You're the owner of campvana.com, and you sell laptops and tablets business to business. Great. This is going to be a perfect workshop for you if you are at all interested in getting out there and doing networking. So let me get started, if you would. I'd like to talk about SCORE for a couple minutes, and then I'll go right into tonight's presentation. Again, welcome everybody. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about our mission and who we are and what we do. Right now, SCORE is probably the largest network of free volunteers that work with small businesses in the country. There are some 240 or 50 chapters around the country with about 10,000 volunteers that do what we do here in SCORE in Cleveland. We were fortunate enough to be announced as Chapter of the Year in 2022. So, I can assure you we're very proud of that, and you're also working with one of the better chapters in the country, at least in my own opinion. So, no matter what stage your business is in, we're here to help. And we always say, again, no matter what stage your business is in, you should not have to go it alone. Not only would you have help from mentors like the people here at SCORE, but mentors out in the business, as you'll see as we go through our networking presentation. It's just great to have connections to people that can help you in your business endeavors. So our mission is simple. It's just to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. Mentoring could be one-on-one, could be multiple mentors with one client. It could also be boards of advisors that we do put together for companies that are already in business and need some ongoing help. But the idea is education through our workshops, the mentoring, and want to give every person that's out there that we work with the support that they need to thrive as a small business. So if you're a startup, if you've been in business, if you've been in business for years, even if you're at a point where you're ready to move out and sell your business, SCORE is here to help. And you all know that small businesses drive the nation's economy. And that is, one thing that we always have in the back of our minds, as well as the, federal government and other organizations. And in Cleveland, it's very important, and in the Cleveland area, for us to work with small businesses and for the small businesses to grow and thrive. That really is what puts together the nation's economy, but certainly local economies and county economies as well. So we're all volunteers. All our volunteers give freely of their time. Nobody gets paid. We've got one paid administrative assistant. Other than that, everybody that does what we do here in SCORE is a volunteer. So I wanted to mention SCORE is for everybody. So no matter who you are, we're there to help empower small business entrepreneurs. Just a quick thing, and this is 2022. I mentioned we were chapter of the year, but we had direct effect on helping to start 500 new businesses, as you can see, and we created probably close to 820 jobs in the businesses that we helped put together. Our chapter provided services to about almost 3,000 clients, but 7,500 services is a combination of all of the workshops that we do, all of the one-on-one mentoring we do. And that's one of the ways in which we keep track of what we're doing and how successful we are. And these are independent numbers that have come up through Smith Waterhouse Price, I'm sorry. Just want to let you know that we are in Cuyahoga, Lorain, Lake, Geauga, Ashtabula, Huron County. Those 7 counties along the lake are the areas that we service. So we are a service partner of the SBA. The SBA provides grants for us that helps us to, I don't know, about 1/3 of the costs that it takes to run our chapter. The SBA helps. The rest of it we do raise through our own fundraising that we do just to raise the money that we need. So what I'd like to show you is one of the reasons why we're on tonight talking about networking is that we've got a networking event coming up in a few weeks, September 12th to be exact, as you can see. It's going to be at the Holiday Inn Select in Independence. Anybody that has a SCORE mentor is welcome to come. We are expecting somewhere between, I would say, 120 to almost 200 people. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be on the 120 to 150 side, but it's a networking event that is for you to come out, talk about your business, and you'll see as we go along some of the things that you can start thinking about as a networking event unfolds in front of you. So what I did want to do was go to the next page. This is SCORE's website, and if I click here, it's going to go live. Here we go. I just want to let you know that you can go on here and request a mentor locally. You can browse through our profiles to see who might fit your needs. And also you can go on here and find all of the workshops that are coming up. In fact, I'm going to go there now. And let's see, there we go. So as you can see, this is the one that we're doing tonight. This is coming up, artificial intelligence. So we're looking at AI as one that's coming up. And then the next one, and I'll talk about this in a minute, is networking, grabbing the attention at a networking event. Dave Lupian, who's on with me tonight, will be walking you through that. And I've seen what Dave has put together, and I think it'd be quite exciting. And I think it's a great segue from this to what Dave is about to present. So let me go back one. And I just wanted to also show you, so on our homepage, you can get to Cleveland SCORE Connect 2023. Just go to score.org/Cleveland and you'll be there. And then learn more and register. And this will take you through all the things that you're going to want to know about in terms of what's happening, date, time, place. Register, and we welcome you to join us. So I'm going to move on. And now let's talk about the networking playbook, okay? And that's what we're all here to do tonight. So this is kind of our structure of that tonight. The importance of networking, and we'll go through that first. Preparing for your event, really understanding, knowing your audience, targeting the people that you want to talk to, communications before the event actually starts, working on the event, what is your ask? We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to go through the elevator pitch in just one quick slide. Dave's got an entire presentation around that. And then, of course, post-event communications, which is really important to follow up. So if you're going through an entire networking event, you're meeting people, if you just leave it at that, then you've done yourself a disservice. You're really not going to be in position to take advantage of the reason you went to that networking event in the first place. So let's continue on. And let's talk about, again, the importance of networking. And, if you're just starting out, and I'm sure there are people on the call that are just starting out, then, this is really important for you. Again, if you have any questions, please either put them in the chat. I think that would be easier for me to monitor. But also just want to let you know that everybody that's on this call right now will get a copy of the slides and the recording. We are also live on YouTube tonight, so you will get a copy of the YouTube recording, or at least have access to that YouTube recording through our website. So again, I'll try to monitor the chat the best I can. I will be asking some questions along the line, but what the takeaways I think from here tonight are just some good key ideas that you can use to put together your own networking, not necessarily networking events, but when you're going to a networking event, just tidbits that you can take with you that are going to help you be successful with that networking event. So, this is going to help you hone your networking and your communications and sales skills. When you go to a networking event, obviously it's connecting you with other small business owners that can serve as your mentors. And I mentioned that earlier, when we first started out, and offer moral support. If you talk to any successful small businesses, or at least 95% of the small businesses that are out there, made use of mentors of some sort or another. Obviously, we'd love it to be SCORE, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be people in your own world, in your own business, in your own family that have some of the knowledge that you need and would help you from a support perspective. Getting to know other entrepreneurs who have been in the trenches, that's a really good reason to get to a networking event. And again, you need to know who's going to be at that event to know whether or not that's a qualifier for the people at that event. So they know what you're going through, and these are people that you can talk to and learn from. That's another great reason. And it gets you involved in your business community and in your industry. So if you're going to an industry event, it is fabulous to get out and meet other people. Networking is so important. I have been in sales for the last 40 or so years. And the one thing that I learned is that networking, whether you're business to business or you are business to consumer, is one of the ways that you can really get out there and put people together and put ideas together and get people to, as you'll see, know, like, and trust you, and really help you with your business. So getting involved is really important. Good reason for networking. So I mentioned business to business or business to consumer. So mostly business to businesses, probably whom are on this call right now tonight, are some sort of service. It could be a professional service, maybe other types of service. As I mentioned, I was in sales, and even though I sold things, the businesses that I did business with were other service businesses. So from a business to business perspective, I looked at my company as a service company as well. Business to consumer, even if you are a business to consumer and you're coming to a networking event, if you choose the right event and focus in on the right people, you can have some real success there as well. So networking raises your profile, gets you out in front of people, gets you to meet people that you can follow up with and work with. And I mentioned this a minute or two ago, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. That's true whether you're business to business or business to consumers. If you have a brick and mortar store, people come into your store, they like the service, they like that they can trust you. They may, like your salespeople, they may like you, they may like your product. Those are the things that it takes. So a lot of times networking event is about talking to people about those things or even demonstrating those things. So another great way to find prospective customers. So again, I mentioned I've been in sales most of my career. It is rare that you will get business by making cold calls. Now, certainly there is a level of people that out there that do well with cold calls. That's a certain type of business and certain types of cold calls. But business to business for certain and business to consumers, there's no reason to go out and make cold calls. If you're doing your homework right, no matter how you're selling, whether you're networking or you're doing any other kind of selling, if you are leveraging people that you know in the industries that you know, they can hook you up with the people you want to talk to. So instead of going in and trying to make yourself a cold introduction, if you've got people that can put that in front of somebody else and introduce you, you're one step ahead of a cold call. And that's the way I look at doing sales business. And again, we're all on this call one way or another because we're selling something. We're selling ourselves, we're selling our products, we're selling our services, we're selling our companies. So referrals are a wonderful way to get new business, and referrals happen a lot when you're doing well in a networking event. So you are going to naturally obtain more of these by working through your networks in multiple network events. And it's wonderful if you can run into people at event after event that you've seen in other events. That means that you're going in the right direction. So moving on to the next slide, if I can. Not certain why, there we go. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the types of networking events that are out there. And by no means is this a definitive list, okay? You can go on a website and look at networking events for a specific industry or a specific type of business, and I'm sure you'll find tons and tons and tons of those. And I started with the big one, which is industry conference, exhibits, and trade shows, okay? So if you're displaying something in a trade show, again, business to business or business to consumer. So for instance, the hardware show in Chicago is a perfect way to get both in front of business, in front of consumers, as well as other businesses. So, hardware buyers, consumers, Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. Those are the big ones. But, everybody belongs to some sort of an association, or if you don't, I recommend you do. And those associations typically have could be citywide, statewide, regional, or even national conferences and trade shows every year. So I would look at those. I would also look at, and I think I've got this in a later slide, getting involved in those areas where you can actually become part of, let's say, the board of a particular industry trade association that puts on these conferences. Become an industry expert. So I'll give you a quick example. I worked within the hotel industry, and a lot of the people that I dealt with were in the meeting planning business. And I was on the board of the International Conference Center Association. And when anybody wanted to know anything about what was coming up in the way of new technology in meetings, in particular for these types of conference centers, they came to me and asked me to speak. And that got my name out there. So it is a great way to become an industry expert and to be part of these types of associations. So that's the biggest one of them. So, network mixers, meetups, there's all kinds of those going on here locally, as well as, I'm sure regional and national as well. After hour events. Now, I do a lot of events for SCORE just to get our name out there. Dave does as well. And we show up, and if we're lucky, we'll get asked to speak or do a presentation. You can do the same thing. I think that's really important. Alumni events, industry-specific events. And then, company hosted events. So, if you are part of an industry or a company, they're always having events. If you can get involved in those, if you can also become also philanthropic events as well. Again, a business expert, somebody they go to when they want to know something specific about that business. Let's talk a little bit about preparing for the event, because that's really important. And the reason why is without a plan, it's pretty much a waste of time, particularly if you're paying money to be there. So those larger industry events, those National Association trade shows and exhibits, if you're paying, even if you don't have a booth there and you're just paying to be a guest, and you're traveling to wherever it is, and you're paying an entry fee, and you're paying a hotel, and you're there for 4 or 5 days, you're there to network. Even though you may not have a booth, there are other people there, and you'll see how you find that. But don't waste your time. Without a plan, you will fall flat on your face. And some of the smaller events, okay, you don't need to have a written plan. It's just having an idea or a map in your mind of how you want to go about doing this. And you'll see as we go along ways that you can do that. First of all, you want to decide what you want to achieve when you go to this networking event. I mentioned before, you're not there cold calling, so you're not likely to close a sale. So when I look at what I want to achieve in any type of an event, or even in a sales call, or even in a pitch that I might do, it's not necessarily ever to a point where I want to close or need to, or even feel like it's even possible to close the sale. But you can come up with a mini close, or think about what you want to accomplish. A mini close might be, I want to talk to the vice president of the XYZ company. I know he's going to be there. I know she's going to be there, but I want to talk to this person, and I want to at least get to the point where I can start communicating with that person, or maybe even get an appointment to see that person, or maybe set up a lunch or something to that effect. To me, that's a mini close. If you're successful with what you have in your head as a mini close, then you're doing well. And every time you do something in that direction, and you're closing closer and closer towards your total goal, which might be making that sale, the mini close is a good step in the right direction. So baby steps to get there. Sometimes it's a marathon, and it really depends on what it is you're selling, or your product, or your service. If you're in a situation where you're selling contracts that are multi-million-dollar contracts, it could take a year or 2 years to get to a point where you might have a sale. You may even have to wait for somebody else's contract to expire before you even have a chance. But if you don't begin in some way or another figuring out how you're going to get to the decision makers, then you're just not going to get it done. But you do it as a marathon, closing one little part of it at a time. So preparing for the event, you need to know who your potential customers are. And you want to find potentially, these are reasons why you might want to get to that event. You might want to look for investors in your company. You might want to look for partners. You might want to be there because you can learn new practices, best practices, new technology. Another great reason to be at a networking event. But those are the things that might be part of the goals that you set for yourself when you're deciding how you want to achieve them. Maybe it's a job opportunity, okay? Maybe it's expanding your network, and that's always probably one of the keys. And maybe meet and connect with specific people. Again, you want to talk to the vice president of buying at a supermarket chain. You might find an event that person is going to attend. You get to that event in some way or another, make sure that you know who you're talking to, and we'll talk about that in a minute, how you want to make that approach, what you want to do, what your mini close is. And, that's the way to be successful with networking. So it's not catch as catch can. You don't just show up and act friendly, because that's not going to get you to a point where you know what you want to do. You may want to, in this particular case, identify collaborators. So there may be people within your industry. It could be suppliers. It could be other types of consumers. It could be web developers. It could be a lot of different things, but people that you might be able to collaborate with, partner with, have interests in common with, and have discussions around what you're trying to accomplish. And then certainly, and Dave would probably talk about this as well, but I know Dave does a lot of work in new product development. What better way to introduce a new product to consumers or businesses except by being at a networking event? How fabulous would that be if you had an audience of people that might potentially be interested in the product that you want to bring to market? So again, if you go all the way back to the larger conventions and exhibits and trade shows, that's one way to look at it. But also, just as simple as we attend events for Harvard Community Services Center, and they bring in local businesses to talk about their businesses, to show their wares, show their products. It's a very small event, and it's a very centralized event, but it's something that's really good for the people that work and live in that neighborhood to come and see those things, as well as the vendors and businesses that are out there that can talk to the people in the community. So a lot of different ways you can do that. And the one thing that I see most people don't do is they don't think of networking as part of their marketing plan. And it surely should be, because it's a great way to move forward on your plan. So again, let's go through a few more of these. Choosing network organizations or events to join based on your goals. And the goals, some of the goals I showed you in the previous slide. Let's see if I can go back there. These are some potential goals. You probably have goals that are more personal to your business, and those are the ones that I suggest you focus on. And you might even have some of those goals in your business plan, or your marketing plan, which would be terrific if you do. So choosing the network organizations or the events that you want to join based on your goals is very important. We'll talk about that in a minute, but there's a ton of ways that you can research those. You'll see in a minute, look for events that will attract the types of people that you want to meet. You can go online and just pull up events. You can pull up the associations that are part of the industry that you might be in. Again, and if you're at a retail level, there's a lot of retail things going on as well. If you're online, if you got an online store, there are a lot of events. There are a lot of people out there that you can talk to. You can network online just as easily. So you want to understand the associations that are out there, what trade shows that are out there, and potentially online communities. This is just a few of dozens of areas that you want to start researching once you figure out what you want to do and how you want to do it. But understanding your target audience is going to be really important if you are looking at doing networking and trying to figure out what types of networking events or what associations, trade shows, or any kind of communities that are out there. It's going to be really important for you to understand that. And then, if you can, look for an attendee list. So I know that if I'm paying to go to, let's say, a national trade show, I know that I can get a copy of, because I've paid and I'm going to this, I can get a copy of the actual attendee list with a lot of times with contact information. That's all available for you. But if it's not, what I would do is go back to the actual event, look at the advertisements, look at what's posted online, look at social media, and it will give you an idea of the people or the type of people that are attending. If it's free and you go and nothing happens and you can't get where you want, you've lost nothing but time. On the other hand, if you're paying to be involved in it, you should be able to get yourself a good list. And once you've got that list, you've got something in your hands that you can really work with. So again, preparing for the event, we don't want to do this without, I think, yeah, okay. Understanding your target audience, I just mentioned that, but again, choosing the network organizations that you think you want to join based on the goals that we talked about before. And I'm sure there are many more goals or objectives that you can set for yourself. Again, networking should be one of your major strategies in your business plan, assuming that it fits with what all you need to do. Understanding your target audience. We present a workshop called Marketing Basics. We focus a ton on, understanding, researching your target customers, knowing what their demographics are, knowing what their buying habits are, knowing where they hang out online, knowing what types of products they do. And that's the same type of research that you want to do as you begin looking at your event. And you want to learn about the people that are going to be at your event. So you want to look for events that are attracting the type of people that you've defined in marketing as your target audience. And we will be doing more and more workshops on marketing and target audiences and so on. So that gives you, a really good idea of who you're actually going to be selling to. And there are other ways to reach those as well. So, associations, trade shows attract the type of people you might be talking to. Online, go to local communities and see what's going on there. And I mentioned, look at the attendee list so you understand the demographics. And I mentioned, check out the ads and the flyers and the websites of most of these small events will have some sort of online advertisements or in social media that you can look to see what's going on from that perspective. So knowing your audience, it's really going to enhance the effectiveness of your interactions. So what I'm saying is that, just to go up and blindly say, hey, I'm Bob Cohen, great to meet you, without having that mini close in mind, that is just going to be nothing more than another introduction that goes nowhere if you don't follow up on it, or you don't, figure out how to leverage what you just did. So again, you're tailoring your approach on who you're engaging with. So you got to be flexible. Everybody's got a different style. There are people that are very direct, bottom line oriented. There are people that are chatty. There are people, there's so many different types of people. There are people who are totally analytical. You need to understand them and understand what your approach would be to them so that you are talking within the sphere that they're comfortable with in their communications. So knowing your audience is going to definitely improve your networking outcome. I mentioned be adaptable, approachable, and attentive. Build meaningful relationships that can lead to future opportunities. So, as you go through first the understanding of your audience, what are the qualifiers that you're going to look at in terms of an individual that you might want to talk to? That is, they have other stores like mine. They have influence in a specific area of marketing or field. There's so many out there that you want to look at. And once you do that and you begin to develop some relationships, you can find future opportunities that way as well. So beforehand, identify the individuals, the companies that you want to connect with. Familiarize yourself with backgrounds and interests, and maybe even their accomplishments. Go on to LinkedIn, check out their LinkedIn profile, get LinkedIn with them. Look at other people that are LinkedIn with them. Look at their social media posts. Look at their company's social media. There's a whole list of them I'll go through in a minute. So these are places where you can begin to do some of the research. So certainly, I just mentioned your social media, industry forums and communities online. You can find them. You can start looking at people. You can look at influencers. You can look at influential people that you might think might be of value or help to you. Look at your market research reports. There are several different types out there. The public libraries have a ton of information online that you could do research with on any given company. Again, LinkedIn is a great way. Look at your targets' websites. There are a lot of value you'll pick up in going through a website, understanding how they work, how they sell, how they market, how they price, understanding what their products are, some cases even knowing who their clients are, knowing if it's business to business, business to consumer, what types of services they offer. Do those services in any way fit with what your products or your services are and how they might be offered? Those are things to keep in mind so that when you sit down or you stand or however you're doing it, proposing a cocktail with somebody, you can really talk about things that fit within their wheelhouse and their interests. And that is how you get to a point where you take that first meeting at a networking event and get it to a point where you're developing a relationship. Other things that might be of handy to you, discovery questions that you can come up with and ask people about. So Dave, when he talks about his new product introductions, he talks about doing discovery with potential clients or actual clients and finding out whether or not what you have in the back of your head is of value to anybody. It's a great way to look at your product offering and see how viable it is and what type of market possibilities there are to get that done at some of these networking events if you target the right people. So competitors, you'll have competitors out there. It's always good to do a competitive analysis in your marketing, but understanding your competitor is also going to give you another way to approach that competitor without being testy in any way, shape, or form, but getting more cooperation out of your competitor. You never know, your competitor may need things from you as well. So those are all things to think about. Going through news articles, publications, and things like that, you'll find a lot about what's going on. I don't know if anybody, depending on what level of business you're in, if you subscribe to like Crane's Cleveland Business, any other small business journals that are out there, great ways to figure out who and how and what in terms of meeting people. So the first thing you might want to do, and not every event is this going to be something you want to do, but certainly in the larger events, if you're going to a trade show or you're going to an exhibit and you want to meet up with people, there's no reason why, if you've got a list of the attendees and you've done your homework and your due diligence on them, that you couldn't reach out to them in some sort of pre-event communications, okay? Or if you're going to a professional organization, even if it's local, citywide, or whatever it is, again, and you know who you want to meet with, it's really nice to say, hey, I'm coming to this, I know you are as well. I would really like to see if we could spend 5 minutes together. Great way to get to see people and find out, whether or not they fit with what you're trying to accomplish. So an intro email, if you've never interacted with your target before. Remember I said cold calls? I would, if I'm going to do an intro to myself to somebody else, I will always look for a third party that may have contact with the person I'm trying to get a hold of. Sometimes it's not possible, but if you got a big enough LinkedIn network, chances are somebody out there knows who you're trying to talk to. Or your network is so good because you're such a great networker, you can call so-and-so up and say, hey, I know that you know so-and-so because of what you do. Can you get me an appointment, or if nothing else, a quick intro? I do this all the time. In SCORE, we are tied into just about every small business organization in what we call the ecosystem that's out there. And so I can get intros to almost anybody I want in almost any way that is necessary in order to make that happen. So that's one way to do it. So, maybe a personal invitation, you want to meet during the event. You want to connect, that's, why you want to connect. You might come to them and say, hey, I see you're doing, ski repairs. I'm a ski, um, um, I'm a ski shop. I sell skis, but I need somebody I can recommend. Would you be available for me to talk to you so I can figure out whether or not we have something here in common? But it might be even, you're talking to somebody that's in a business that's complementary to yours, even if it's a competitor in some cases, or certainly we talked about all those reasons to be there. Other mentors, people that can help you with your business, people that might give you referrals. Those are the type of people you want to connect with, and you can tell them why. And always talk to them about what's in it for them as well. If you've got something, some reason why you want to connect, what are your mutual interests? Maybe there's something there that you can use. When you meet people on a personal level, you are always looking at ways. It might be geographical, it might be hobbies, it might be business, but ways to connect with them because of mutual interests. That goes here as well. Potential collaboration, I mentioned that just a minute ago, but that's an area that you might want to consider. Where and when, especially if you're in a large convention. So, conventions might go 3-4 days. You might want to meet in the XYZ breakout room or at the bar at the end of the day. Those are the kinds of things that you want to think through as well. So, pre-event communications, besides the stuff that you're doing personally, you may want to let people know, that they should come to the event, assuming that, it's an event that they should be at. But you might also let people know, especially through LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is probably one of your best social medias for people who are currently in business, but certainly any of the others work as well. You might want to let people know that you're going. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, there's no reason why you shouldn't be making posts out there saying, hey, I'm going to the XYZ event. I'd like to see you all there, or however you want to do this, up to and including maybe even personalizing some of these. Email marketing. Now, if email marketing is part of your business plan, this is a perfect spot. And as you know, SCORE does a lot of email marketing, maybe sometimes too much, except that it's the only way for us to let people know that we've got these workshops that are out there. But when we do our email marketing, we really are telling people about, in our particular case, the workshops that we do. But if you have a business and you're doing email marketing as part of your normal marketing, either you have a newsletter or you're just putting out content for people to look at, and you've got a database of people that use that content, then by all means, you should be talking about the networking that you're doing, the networking event, up to and including even asking people for information that they may have for you on ways that you can network. I mean, there's so many ways to do this. It's so much more than just walking into an event and saying, hey, I'm Bob Cohen. So I'm going to move ahead a little bit. And let's talk about now. So let's assume you've done all your work and you got a big following. People are going to be there. It's a nice event. It really now requires a strategic approach while you're there. So working the event is difficult, particularly for people that don't, are not comfortable with going out and meeting strangers. Now, hopefully, yes, you'll meet strangers there, but hopefully the people you want to key in on, you've already talked to, and you know that they're going to be there, and you've already talked about ways to talk or to get together or to have a drink or whatever it is. So again, back to your goal, know what you want to achieve at that event. Arrive early. It's just pretty easy stuff right here. Perfect your elevator speech. Very, very important. And I've got a slide on this. Maybe I'll ask Dave to just speak up too when we get to that slide, just to talk a little bit about next week's event, because that's going to be talking about this. Listen actively. Now, again, I've been in sales for my entire career. When I coach young salespeople, I always tell them, listen 75%, talk 25%. And when you talk, you should be asking more questions than giving answers, because that's the way you get people to think or to realize that you are actively listening. I would go into a discovery session. I would have a list of questions that I wanted answered. Yes, they can ask me questions, and yes, I'll answer them and answer them as directly as I can. But the idea really is to listen. And when you listen, you will hear things that are going to help you ultimately down the road in closing a piece of business, or up to and including getting, working with the people you meet at that networking event. Always exchange contact information. I don't care if you do it electronically or you're, old-fashioned like me and trading business cards. A lot of people will just, trade QR codes, and that's great. And sometimes probably even better in that you've got information that's long-lasting. And keep that information. Take notes. I think I've got that somewhere. Be approachable. And if you're in a large exhibitor conference, make sure that you attend the workshops, the exhibits, and the socials. That's all really important for you to get in front of the people and to talk to the people you want to work with. There's take notes. And the reason I say take notes is because when you get back from an event, particularly if it's one of the larger type events, and you're going to run into people and they're going to give you cards and they're going to say, hey, when you get a chance to call me, I need to talk to you about your new product that I think is really going to help me out. And if you forget who you talked to, what you said, and what you said you were going to do, then you will have lost some pretty good possibilities. So that's really important. Take notes and follow up and do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Don't just say, hey, we've got to get together again and leave it at that, because it will never happen. I know that for a fact. So let's talk about working the event a little bit more. So here's a few conversation starters. This is by no means the end all be all, but just some ideas. And you want to possibly, because you've done your research, you know who you're talking to, you know what you want to accomplish. Again, do you need to write this down? Not necessarily, but put it up here and know what you're going to do when you get there. So get some conversation starters together. Based on the research, ask relevant questions, ask questions and listen 70% of the time. Really important. Show genuine interest. That's the way to do that. Tailor your opening lines to resonate with whomever you are speaking with. What you don't want to do is come up with something that is going to turn the person you're talking to totally off to what it is you're presenting. There's a lot of subtlety in understanding how to open the first thing you talk about with whomever you're working with. I mentioned this before, adapt your communication styles. There are so many different types of personalities out there. There are again, the people that are bottom line oriented. There are people out there that are very social oriented. There are people there that are extremely analytic. And there are people there that just want to get there. So understand who they are and what they do. And I'm sure you can find out about that if you take a look at posts and things like that. Or if you know somebody that knows somebody that you're trying to look at. I did a lot of work with hotel general managers. I might go to the director of catering and say, hey, tell me about your boss. What is he like? What does he don't like? What doesn't he like? What type of person is he? And I would learn that way before I even talk to that person. So those are ways to do that if you've got the time to do that. Now, I realize that many of you are smaller businesses, 1 or 2 people businesses. How much time do you have really to do this? Well, I would say that take the time that you need within reason based on what you're currently doing, but understand how important this is for your business. If it's not important, don't waste your time. But to me, this is one fabulous way to do marketing. I mentioned that. Be concise and clear when speaking to professionals. One thing you don't want to do, if you're not talking to somebody who's technical, you don't want to talk to them in a technical language. Dave will talk about that as well when he talks about pitching. The last thing you want to do is come up with, language that is not understandable to the average person. So you've got to be very careful. You'll turn somebody off right away there. Demonstrate when engaging with industry experts. You might have something on your phone that you could show a picture of. You should have material available in your hand or somewhere nearby that if somebody asks you a little bit about what your business is and you need to explain it further than your elevator's pitch, you might want to show a picture, show something on your website, show something that's printed collateral. And again, working the event, this is just something I wanted to reach you. Remember, network building is about relationships, not just handing out business cards. Approach each interaction with genuine interest in getting to know others and finding ways to support each other's professional goals. Be patient, persistent, as forming a meaningful connection often takes time. And so I mentioned this in the very beginning. This is a marathon and not a sprint. And you might go to some, they may not work out. You may not be very comfortable the first several times around. You may flub it. I would go to the ones that are least important first. You could do some A/B testing. Test it one way, that's the A. Test it a different way, that's the B. See what works, what approaches work. It's going to take experience in these to get to a point where you get really good at it. But I guarantee if you do and you persist with it and you do all the things that we're talking about tonight, you will be an expert and you will make business connections that will give you business and support your businesses. So I mentioned exchange contact information. I don't need to spend much time on that, but you might customize your follow-up based on your conversations. Again, who you talked to, what you talked about, take that down. What you said you were going to do, when you said you were going to do it, that's how you put together your follow-up information. And also, you meet somebody brand new and that you haven't necessarily targeted, that you just meet serendipitously that works out well for you, get linked in with them. Start including them and figure out what they're doing and how you want to follow up with them. Let's talk about what is your ask, okay? Defining your ask at a networking event involves clearly articulating what you're seeking or hoping to achieve from the interactions, okay? You got to be careful on how you do this, but it's really important. Remember, you're not closing the sale, you're just getting to the next step. That's the mini close. So what is your ask? Do you want to play golf? Do you want to get together for coffee? Do you want to talk about things that you have in common that would potentially be good marketing or sales goals? There's so many possible asks that you can make, but let's talk about a few of those. Ask for advice, okay? There is nothing wrong with that, and it's a great way to get people to open up to you. Wonderful way to do that. Seek referrals. Hey, I heard so-and-so, and I'm looking to work with that person because that person has something, blah, 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 whatever that is, that I'm interested in. Can you give me a referral? Or, you get to a point where you've got some people that know, like, and trust you. You can ask for referrals. Who do you know in this industry that I can call? What do you know about information about so-and-so? Can you give me a referral? Those types of things. Obviously, you've got to ask for those things at a point in time where it makes sense. You jump out too far, you don't have that trust. People don't know you, then they will be suspicious when you begin asking for things like referrals. Industry insights, a good way to endear yourself to somebody in the industry that you're looking up to that has information for you that might be helpful. Remember when I said successful business owners, most small businesses have people that they can call up and ask about those types of things. Those are contacts that they've worked through networking. Those are mentors of sorts, people that you need to talk to. Mentorship, I mean, even ask for mentorship. Obviously, you've got to judge that carefully, and don't ask somebody for mentorship that wants nothing to do with anything you do, or you in particular. Work up to that, judge it. Partnership opportunities, you never know. You walk into a place that you met somebody that has something that is of desire for you, and you, on the other hand, could support them, and it becomes a win-win situation. There might be some partnership opportunities. Again, it would be nice if you knew about this in advance of going to that particular event. Feedback on your own business ideas. Again, back to that discovery questionnaire. What do you think of this new product that I've heard is, coming to market soon? Is this something that you're interested in, or your business is interested in? Or, I've got this store and we're about to begin stocking such and such. Is this something that you might be interested in? Are your clients interested in this? Those are such good ways to figure out whether or not you've got a viable product. And when you are going for funding and things like that, if you've got good market research that you can show to the bank, that's money in the bank. And if you do it right, that's a good way to get feedback on your business idea. And obviously, same as referrals, intro to key contacts, and event collaboration. You might want to put together events. I've got people who are psychologists online. And one of the things I talk to them about is, if you want to get in front of an audience, put together an event that talks about the things that you do, and bring the people to that event that are potentially utilizing your service. Why not collaborate on events with other people that potentially could be support services or even partners on what you're doing? Look for media opportunities. You never know what media people will be in an event. There's always nice to do that. So a public relations campaign, if you're going to a large event, might be of importance, but public relations in general is another great way to get good marketing done, in some cases for free. There are media opportunities out there. Then if you start taking a look, for instance, at some of the trade associations, the larger ones that are out there, they all have newsletters. They all have articles. They all ask for articles. These are opportunities for you to write about the types of businesses that you have. Connections to investors. Again, there might be events that are out there that are looking for inventors, looking for startups in technology, in other ways. There are maybe investors out there that are looking for brick and mortar stores that they can invest in, or inventory that they can buy. If you go to the right trade show or networking event, you will find these. You can hone in on them. Again, if you go all the way back to the research we talked about to see who's there, you can find out who they are and what they do, and find out how that fits with what you're looking for. Skills exchange, volunteer opportunities. If you're looking for volunteer opportunities, come to SCORE. Feedback on projects. I mentioned networking already. So I want to talk about networking a little bit. And Dave, I'd love for you to chime in. I'm just going to go through this slide quickly. But before I do, if you can unmute yourself and maybe turn your camera on, show us your handsome face. I don't see you, but I hear you, or I think I hear you.
I'm trying to get the video.
It may be the way the settings are set up. You might not be able to.
I don't think I can.
Okay, no worries. My bad. I'm sorry, but at least you're here in voice. So what I wanted to do first is to tell you that Dave is going to be conducting a workshop next week. It's actually today's Wednesday. It's Thursday of next week at 7 o'clock, same place, same time. I would say, if you can, go ahead and register for this event. It's going to be excellent. You can see how to develop a crisp elevator pitch, selling yourself and your idea, and closing the deal. And again, whether that deal is a mini close or some other way of closing the deal that you're looking at doing. Those are things I know that he's going to talk about. Dave, do you mind going through this slide?
What I'll do is I'll give them a little tease. So, one of the issues that Bob talked about, and it's really the gorilla in the room when you talk about networking, and that's the difference between introverts and extroverts. And what I want to do next week is really focus on introverts a little bit and talk to them specifically about how you can use tricks to really be confident and get your message out without a lot of stress and a lot of angst in that process. So if you want to hear all about that, join us next Thursday.
Excellent. Okay. So, there's a lot of definitions of what an elevator pitch is. Dave's going to give you the one that we probably all agree on is the best, but the idea really is to get your information about you, your business, things you're doing across very, very quickly, to articulate who you are, what your business is very quickly. And Dave's going to go through a lot of the techniques around that next week. So I'm going to stop with that particular slide. And let's talk about some post-event follow-up, okay? Obviously, if you talk to somebody, it'd be wonderful for you to send some, it doesn't have to be a thank you, it could be an email. Hey, it was great to talk to you. We discussed blah, blah, and blah. I would love to get together. You said that I give you a call on, August 31st, you'd be available at 4 o'clock. I plan to do that. I'll send you a Zoom invitation or whatever else. But those are the kinds of things that you want to do. You might want to, reference a point of interest. We talked about X, Y, and Z. You said this, I said that. You want to reinforce shared interests. We decided that we have something really in common. We're great, we're great lovers of the game of golf. Or we determined that, from a business perspective, you're looking at ways of buying, XYZ products. I just happen to be, an XYZ product developer. What value you provide, assuming, that came up in the conversation. Or if you're just sending a kind of a letter out. And sometimes people that attend some of these larger shows will do event follow-up for everybody that attended that event, or people that are tracking people that came to their booth. And there's a lot of ways to do that. There's several electronic ways that you can find out exactly who came to your booth in some of these larger trade shows. You might have a list of everybody. You might then add them to your email database and start emailing them out and following up with them. Thanks for attending. We saw you at our booth. You expressed interest here. Here's what we have to offer. When you're doing something that's a little bit less personal to an individual and something that's a little bit wider to attendees that showed up at your booth, you tailor those messages differently. Potentially, a follow-up meeting, connect on LinkedIn, add a personal note if that makes sense to do it. Certainly social media engagement. And, I would say that if you find somebody that, even if it's going to take a year to 2 years to get to the point where you've got going on with them what you want, maintain regular communications all the time. Let them know what you're doing, talk to them about how they're doing. And then obviously express availability. I mean, if you're a brick and mortar store, you're selling a product, you're selling a service, let people know what's available through you. And certainly if you make a relationship with anybody, figure out if you can attend events together. They may see events that they know you'll be interested in, and vice versa. All right, so let's review because we're at the end. We talked about the importance of networking And hopefully you've got at least 4 or 5 things that are relative to what you do that you think makes sense. We talked about ways to prepare for that event, and that really is doing some research on the venue, the people, what you want it to get across, what you're trying to accomplish, what your goals are. Understanding your audience is key, and that goes all the way back to your initial marketing planning. Who are you selling to? What are you selling? Who is buying from you? What are key buyers' habits? Why would they buy from you? What are their demographics? How does that fit with what you're selling? All kinds of things, but understand your audience from the get-go, knowing that I want to focus on, let's say, 25 to 45-year-old males that are very highly involved in skateboarding, something to that effect. And there are so many things that go along with profiles on people that are involved in any particular area that you can start looking and doing your research, your pre-event communications, making sure that you at least know who's going to be there or start communicating with them if it makes sense, using LinkedIn, using other social media, and then working the event. Dave's going to talk a lot about that next week as well. What's your ask? Why are you there? What your elevator pitch looks like, and post-event communications. So at this point in time, I'm going to open it up to questions through chat if you have any. We'll stay on for a minute or two if we have a lot. I see one person, it looks like Carmela, you have your hand raised. I'm going to allow you to talk. If you have, I just unmuted, or you have to unmute yourself, but if you have a question, feel free to ask it. No? Okay, then we will lower your hand. Any other questions? I'm looking in the chat. I don't see any. Anybody? Last call. All right. Well, that said, let's call it an evening. I appreciate everybody joining us. Somewhere along the line, you should get a review, a survey you can put together for us. Thank you for doing that. Let's see, did I miss any? Oh, you know what? There's a bunch here that I totally missed. So I'm not going to let you go unless you want to. My bad. I only saw that there wasn't anything at the very end. Somebody's B2B. I'm having bad reception. Sorry about that. Where can we find the best resources for finding a list of industry conferences and trade shows in Northeast Ohio? I would look that up several different ways. One, I would put exactly that into Google. I would also look at, there are 2 or 3 different publications that come out on trade shows and networking events that you can
Bob, I think I
look
can
for.
help answering that also.
Oh, go ahead, Dave. Sure.
Yeah, I do this all the time for my clients. For example, if you want, you always search first the industry or category that you want the trade show in. For example, you just simply ask Google trade shows for food service, or let it go with that, trade shows for food service. And immediately you will see all the 2023 trade shows that focus on restaurants, hospitality, et cetera. And that's the best and easiest way. I do it all the time, just simply by category or industry, ask where the trade shows are.
Okay, excellent. And you can also look at trade associations as well. They all publish their calendars. So if there's a particular trade association that you either belong to or like to belong to or learn from, you might look them up. And there are books on trade shows available online, and conferences and so on that you can look at. How many businesses will have a table at the networking event on September 12th? I think it's up to 15 or so, and I'm not certain. I
Bob,
apologize.
as of this point, we have 38.
38 tables?
Yeah,
Well, there you go. It shows you what I know. Wow. Okay.
I think we have room for 2 more.
You might be right. And we might consider others if we need to. I think we can expand the ballroom if we need to. Where's the event on September 11th? Somebody joined late. The event is at the Holiday Inn on Rockside Road in Independence. If you go to our website and just page down on the homepage, it'll take you there. There is a list of businesses that will be there. It's not published, and I won't be able to actually do that based on the way we're working here. One of the issues that we have with SCORE is our code of ethics forbids us from providing information about our clients to anybody. So that's just one of the things that we live with every day. Although when you're there, you'll talk to people directly and you can find out who they are. Everybody will have a name tag. You'll be able to talk to them. Did I miss anything? Dave talked a little bit more next week.
Bob, there's a question from Teresa about, is there a 6-foot table available?
I would go to the registration online. It will say if there's anything left. If not, then I can, if you send me an email or tomorrow or tonight, I will go to the people that are putting the tables together and ask about it. So somebody said at many events, it's challenging to insert oneself into conversations. Dave, I'm assuming that next week you'll talk a little bit about that. Is there anything you want to say now?
Well, yeah, there are tricks that you can use. If you're an extrovert that is naturally comfortable around people, of course, you're just going to barge right in and become part of the conversation. But for example, my son is very much of an introvert and goes to human resource networking events all the time. And he employs tricks to really insert himself in that conversation. And we'll talk a little bit about that next week.
Okay. Is there a list of attendees? I mentioned that. How do you use these networking tips for potential international client customers? Obviously, you want to understand where you're going and who the international clients are. You need to really understand customs that make sense for the people that you're talking to. I would say,
right.
Yeah, I would say that many, and I know, Dave, you've had a lot of international work. Many companies from an international perspective do speak a lot of English, but you might also consider if you can
that is
learn.
a seminar in and of itself, Bob.
Oh, for
That
sure.
is a complex issue that they actually teach classes about.
Yep.
I spent time in Japan, and I was dealing with international folks from all countries, and culturally you have to be very sensitive, and there's a technique to do it. And maybe you should look at YouTube. There's a lot of good videos on international exchanges on YouTube, and that's a good source.
Yeah. And so I've reached the bottom, and the tables were set up where they had 6-foot tables that were, for one particular company, or potentially two. You could share a table half and half. That would give you more or less 3 feet of space. There are, I believe, will be, I'm not certain, cocktail tables around the room as well. And there will be plenty of opportunity to talk to people, meet people, and network. And the tables are, for all intents and purposes, are people with either products or services that they have information about that they could talk to people as they walk through the event. So I think we're at the end. I don't have any more chat, and I don't see anything else in Q&A. So at this point in time, I would like to thank you all again for coming, and would like to see you next week on Thursday, and then certainly see you at the networking event on the 12th. Thanks for joining us.